Nintendo products have immense value. We must always respect that immense value. And this is why you see these things don't go on sale. It's like
right. That's another point.
The value is the value, and we are really like seriously into that concept of respect the value of what this thing is that we have made because it is very special.
Yeah. And on the one point, it's a great thing for the brand because you are trained, like basically as a consumer, to think like, oh, like this is worth the price. It's not like
this isn't Ubisoft.
I was just gonna say it's not like the Ubisoft situation where I always tell myself, if I wait a month, will this get cheaper?
Right.
Like as a Nintendo customer fan, I feel like all of us are kind of like conditioned to be like, well, I'm gonna buy. If I want to buy this, I might as well buy this now because it's not going to go on sale.
Yeah.
So yeah, on the one hand, it does, good things for their brand in terms of like training your brain to do that. But in the other way, it's like, well, how far are you taking this concept of like how much your stuff is worth? Because again, there is so many other factors that come into pricing something, but the sort of the weight that they put on this just being something from the magical box that is Nintendo makes it like you're paying like a Nintendo markup.
It's a Nintendo tax.
Nintendo tax.
I mean, you could also say like them looking at it, it's like, well, this game that we made was $60. A lot of those other games that are $60 are junk. Like they don't have the Nintendo level of quality or polish or attention. So we do need to distinguish that like how premium this thing is through the pricing, and you will come to understand that.
Please understand.
Come on, man.
Alright everybody, welcome back to another Xvault gaming video. Xvault here, and today we're going to go over another video of thoughts from the vaults. And yes, don't worry, Salty Batch Files will be back, but this is going to be a mix of a little bit of salt and a little bit of news in regards to more Nintendo news, because this is just kind of what's overtaking everything as a storm, so to speak. So I do want to go over this, but fear not, the full-on Salty Batch Files will still be a thing. It's just, there's a lot of stuff surrounding the controversy of Nintendo Switch 2 and everything going on with that. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump to it. Alright, so like I was saying, what we're going to do is get right to the meat of the matter here. We're going to get right to a little bit of the salt first off before we even get to the news portion of it. Now, like I said, there's always a difference between a fan and a fanboy, and boy, are these Nintendo fanboys going ham on stuff. So they just don't want to be honest and real with themselves. They're taking offense to the fact that even people like Digital Foundry is reminiscing with the fact that, hey, look, the Switch 2 is pretty much on par with the PS4, maybe a little bit with the PS4 Pro, right? That's kind of what they're contributing it to and comparing it to. So as we see here from Lonely Goomba, this guy has a lot of followers, by the way. I'm looking at Switch 2 graphics comparisons to the PS5, and not gonna lie, this thing seems really powerful. Final Fantasy VII Remake looks almost indistinguishable. It's kind of crazy. Almost indistinguishable is what we're looking at, Lonely Goomba. And then he has a big old thread of this, by the way. He's upset that people are attacking him, upset with him, so to speak, in regards to his comment here. And the problem is because you're not giving the context of what you're doing here. Let me just, for example, and I'm not going to pull up Final Fantasy VII Remake. I think it does a fine job. You guys can look at the screenshots. I think it does a fine job. I'm waiting to see this more so in motion when it does release, the final outcome of the game, how the frames are looking and all that. But let's pull up Hogwarts Legacy, all right? We're pulling it up via the Switch 2, as you can see here, the Steam Deck, and then the PlayStation 5. Do we not see some pretty distinct and clear comparisons here? Are we going to use this as indistinguishable? The power's on point of closer to a PS5? It's not. It's a lot different in regards to that. If you're doing some research, you're looking into the guts and innards of this stuff, let's stop being a fanboy for a second and understand that, hey, some games are going to look pretty good. And then some games are not, and that might be developer-based, that might be this and that, but if you're out there thinking you're going to get something as good-looking as Final Fantasy VII Remake on your Switch 2, lo and behold, what we're looking at here with just the ray tracing alone, and just the saturation, the shaders, all that stuff, of course, and we're not even taking into account for frames and stuff like that as well. So there's going to be some clear, distinguished differences here, right? We're not done there. I want to pull up another example, by the way. Let's pull up the differences when people are poking fun. So the other comparison I want to show up here, like I said, they gave Sony a lot of flack. They gave PlayStation a lot of flack with their remasters and upgrades and stuff, especially for the PS5 Pro, let alone anything else, or even the base PS5, right? So here, as you can see, we have yours truly in the latest Legend of Zelda game, right? And below that, right below that, you see the differences of the original remastered of Horizon Zero Dawn. Do we see quite a vast difference in between the two? But people are upset about a $10 upgrade here. But then people are okay with what you see on the top end of things in regards to the base model there onto a new full-on generation console for more than $10. 15 to 20 or whatever the case may end up being by the release of everything ultimately. But do we see the differences here? Do we see the picking and choosing? I would clearly say people have something to stand on if the PlayStation remaster looked akin to what we're seeing from Link here, right? Clearly, I'm going to be like, yeah, I'm not even paying $10 for this. Like, sorry, not happening. Even if it had a new trophy list, probably not happening. What's the point? Unless you're a super fan, probably not a big point there. I'm okay to admit that. But here we have people like, it's okay. It's okay. But again, Goomba, again, ultimately, long story short, maybe stop being a fanboy and understand that Digital Foundry might be onto something here in regards to it being more comparable to a PS4 or PS4 Pro, not in fact a PS5. Let's stop huffing the paint here. But anyways, let's keep going here. As we go on, Nintendo Soup here stating, of course, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild Switch 2 edition does not include expansion pass content. Now, people are all up in arms about this one way or the other. Some people, again, the fanboys, or people that want to kind of shill and grift are going to be like, it's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. And then some folks are like, no, that's a huge deal. It's a brand new game and you're paying a crap ton of money for this. It's not just a quick switch over here, right? So Tactical Templar, as you can see here, if it doesn't come with the game now, why would it come with the Switch 2 version? Like, I get it, it's something to complain about, but why did people just assume this? Because typically when you repackage a game, much like Horizon Zero Dawn, the remaster, right? That comes with Frozen Wilds and on, right? That comes with the complete package. That's typically what you do, but here we have the fanboys being like, guys, it's okay. It's okay. And if you're okay with it, that's your prerogative, for sure. But don't sit there and be upset when people are complaining about it, because it does make sense. I would also kind of throw some shade towards Zero Dawn's remaster if it didn't come with the DLC. I'd be like, well, that's stupid. Again, up to me if I want to buy it for that $10 upgrade or whatnot. Totally up to me as an individual, as a consumer. However, to sit there and I wouldn't come back and be like, if somebody had something against the DLC not being there, I'm not going to sit there and fight and be like, you know what, it's okay they didn't do that. It wasn't on the base one anyways. Why do you think No, what are you talking about? This is so ridiculous. And the defense mechanisms going on here is absolutely on another level. We talk about Xbox and Xbox fanboys all the time, but man, we're seeing a lot of similarities here. And I know, again, across the board, even PlayStation, there's some as well. But on the Nintendo side of things, what we're looking at here is blatant fanboyism at its finest here. Again, if they don't hold these companies accountable, you may end up in the same situation that Xbox has ended up in. Let's be honest. That exactly is what I'm seeing with an instance like this. This is definitely a path that could happen. Will it? Probably not. But keep acting this way. Keep being okay with the crap that's being spewed in front of you. With the pricing, with the lack of content, with the lack of upgrades and stuff like that. You're going to make your own bet in it. We're going to have these same conversations we've been having with these Xbox fanboys. But continue to do your thing and continue to carve that own path there. So let's do a couple more kind of salty-ish posts, right? Let's talk about Slash here. Imagine being stupid enough to actually believe this facepalm emoji. Genki stating, Digital Foundry say, like we talked about before, Nintendo Switch 2 is roughly PS4 level and comparable third-party software, and that you can expect a PS4 level experience with games like Final Fantasy VII Remake, Elden Ring, and Hogwarts Legacy on the Switch 2. Okay? They if anything, Digital Foundry likes to be a little more critical on PlayStation than anything else. So the fact they're saying this about the Switch that, is just that outlier source, man, this guy is not having it. Slash is not having it. They think they're being stupid and think people shouldn't believe this. Again, we just shown simple screenshots, and they're trying to defend this. Again, this is older hardware at this point in time already. Give another 2 to 3 years, they're going to peak out, especially in regards to what Digital Foundry is saying here, in regards to how these run and perform and look and on and on. I mean, the games are only going to get more intensive and more hardware heavy and hardware draining and utilizing all that capacity that the hardware has to offer sooner than later. So if we're just barely comparable to the PS4 now, and we know, look at the Switch 1, right? It's been out for quite a few years. It's specifically way behind, in my opinion, in a lot of ways, especially with third-party games, behind the Xbox One and the PS4 generation. We're going to see the same stuff here, but now you're wanting to throw all up in arms here? Like this is a problem now? Like this is new to you? Again, keep doing the same stuff. Eventually it's going to get you, possibly. So just be careful on that, Mark. But let's go over to a quick Reddit thing that was sent over here. Nintendo is not your friend was the Reddit post here. But S spoiler here. F you dude, I love Nintendo and I think their benevolence. That's new to me. I haven't seen a fanboy say something to that extreme personally across social media of any sort. Every day for going decades without raising prices despite hellfire inflation. I see the Series S and X and the PS5 base models doing really well. But okay. If you paid bills instead of mommy, you'd have perspective. What does that have to do with anything? What does bills have to do with inflation when you're paying your mortgage or your water and electricity? Those are utilities and that's life stuff, and that thing goes up every year, inflation or not. Speaking from experience here, that stuff goes up almost monthly at this point for me. But to compare that to rising costs of gaming consoles with the inflation market there, what are we reaching for? And the benevolence? You're using the word benevolence of a corporation. We're talking about ultimate corporate bootlicking here, and we've seen plenty again from the Xbox community, but these guys, they want to go hand in hand. They want to go toe in toe with these Xbox fanboys, man. I'll tell you what, this is something fierce here right now. But little poke there. But let's get real quick to the news here. I want to show one more little post where I read some stuff from the website as well. But Takashi here stating, new data show Nintendo allocating almost entire made in Vietnam game consoles to the US, which is in stark contrast with months before, as it tries to find ways to get around Trump tariff on goods from China. Hey, that's a positive, right? Story is free for the week. Went over the Bloomberg article and shows the graph down below. So Nintendo's Vietnam production going almost entirely to the US. It's the only console maker in the country and is ramping up output. Game console exports to US and then of course elsewhere. So you see the graphs and differences there. I think that's a good workaround, right? That might help those in the other countries where the tariffs may take effect, mainly obviously the US and now what we're looking at, Canada possibly as well, right? For whatever reason and everything in between. But I mean, that's some positive news there. But however, I just want to go over a couple things from the website as well. So as we're going through this here, so again, about those outside in sources, this is from, of course, News Entertainment about the tariffs, cbc.ca. But going through, speaking before the pre-orders pause, analysts told Game Industry Biz they believe the high price was likely set in anticipation of Trump's global tariffs announcement. The highest cost of the console in the US compared to Japan is likely a calculated move on Nintendo's part, driven by tariff impacts, the weak Japanese yen, and local market conditions, said Daniel Ahmad, Director of Research and Insights for Nico Partners. The reciprocal tariffs on Vietnam and Japan have come in higher than expected, and Nintendo will feel the impact of this if the tariffs do go into full effect. Nintendo moved some of its Switch production from China to Vietnam to partly avoid the effects of the US tariffs, but Trump's 46% tariff on Vietnam came in higher than market observers predicted and may have erased the benefits of the move entirely. So there's some things to be had there as well, right? And then in addition to that, also I just kind of want to see what Mr. Bowser from Nintendo is saying here, right? Nintendo America's boss, essentially. But Nintendo hasn't yet commented on the negative reaction to Switch 2's price. But during a media roundtable and Q&A with the Switch 2's hardware architects last Wednesday, a moderator quickly deflected a question about the pricing. The panel was there to answer questions about the fun stuff instead, which I don't think's fair. I get it, but I also don't think that's fair. But continuing on, Nintendo of America's president Doug Bowser, no relation to Mario's nemesis, was slightly more forthcoming that day. As we look at Nintendo Switch 2, he quotes, and you think about the feature sets that I talked about, we believe that the pricing is appropriate for the value of the machine and the gameplay experience overall. Bowser also spoke with CBC prior to the US pre-order pause, noted that the previous generation of Switch devices will be supported, including with a selection of new games coming out later this year. So, like I said, when he's talking about the feature sets that he's talking about, obviously he's going to do corporate talk, corporate speak. He thinks it's fair and all that. And honestly, I think, and I'll be honest, like I mentioned this before, right? US-wise, $449, $450, you get the Mario Kart bundle for $500. I think that's fair to a point because it's new hardware with new games. It's the new generation. I think that's what's going to happen. But I also feel it's just kind of off, right? It's kind of off in regards to the fact that the hardware itself is not comparable to the PS5 or the Series X at the very least. With them coming halfway, a little over halfway through the generation of the PS5 and the Xbox Series S and X, I find that hard to kind of grasp, right? I find that a little hard to make it more palatable for me as a consumer. With that said, but also I can see the hindsight of it where it's like, look, you do get those special first party games. They're unique. They got that Nintendo charm. You got better Joy-Cons. They're now magnetic. You got a bigger screen. It is a handheld type of system that can go with you anywhere. But again, keep in mind, you can end up getting a Steam Deck for comparable price that the Nintendo is. And I don't condone pirating. I don't condone necessarily emulation if it's not helping out the developers in some way, shape, or form. But the Steam Deck can do a lot of things. I'm seeing people already run Mario Party Jamboree and all sorts of different things on their laptops and PCs and Steam Decks and stuff. So, the choice is yours as a consumer when it comes to that. I mean, obviously PC is an open platform like that where you can do that sort of stuff. So you do have choices. If you don't like the choices and the pricing of the Switch 2, then of course, obviously don't let me twist your arm one way or the other, but I also understand the pricing concerns, and I think that should have been adjusted a little bit. But again, now we have to play around with those tariffs a little bit. However, just kind of wanted to end on that note of the news, get some more feedback from y'all, see what you think about all that down below. Also, let me know down below what you think of the latest Nintendo fanboys, because they may be making more appearances in these videos as well when it comes to the Salty Batch files. So keep tuned in for that. And then in addition to that, of course, we'll wrap up the video for now. In addition to those comments I'm hearing from you, those likes, both those things do help out the algorithm. If you haven't already, definitely consider subscribing, helping out a small content creator like myself. We are reaching our goal ever so slightly to that 3,500 sub goal. I know we can do it. You guys are phenomenal. Thank you. New, old, in the middle, whatever. Thank you all so much. Really appreciate that. And of course, we'll see you next time on the next Xvault gaming video, and especially Monday's Salty Batch files. So enjoy the rest of your day, everybody. Take care.